Hey, welcome out to our weekly conference call, everybody. This is our weekly Mastermind call, and we're just going to have a discussion here. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of experience I had when I was in Australia. There was a couple named Vanessa and Paul Owens, and they went Presidential Diamond in 2 years. So basically, after I reached Blue Diamond, they joined doTERRA and went presidential. so
Chalk it up to good looks.
yeah. So anyway, so of course I'm listening to them, and they did it in Australia, and there's there are some challenges in Australia. For example, they can't order Lifelong Vitality from Australia. They have to order it from the United States.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, there's just things like that. So, and when you consider how big Lifelong Vitality is to our
To
business.
loyalty
Yeah,
rewards.
Exactly. So anyway, so I just was, I got to know them, and it was kind of cool because, Paul, he came right up to me and he goes, "Seth, I just wanted to thank you so much for the CDs that you and Rod created. We listened to those all the time. Those really helped us get going." And I'm just going, maybe I should listen to our own CDs and go Presidential Diamond in 2 years. So I sat there and I watched that couple a lot, and I was like, okay, they have something to teach me, and there were some things. So first of all, I asked them. I said, "How do you place people in your structure?" Because someone mentioned to me that they placed, that they had an interesting way of doing that. And one of the things that they did is they said, "Well, we look at our team. We don't call it our team or our downline. They said that we call it our tree of love." And right here, I'm starting to notice. Okay, here's the divergence.
right.
From
The down line.
yeah, from my team. My team, and they're like, "Yeah, our tree of love." And I'm like, "Oh, really? Your tree of love?" And they're like, I said, "So how do you place then?" And they said, "Well, when we enroll people, we place them in the place where we think they're going to receive the most support and love." And and I'm thinking, okay, when I place, I'm thinking I need PV here. I need, I mean, those are the things I'm thinking of, right?
All right.
And then they said, we completely ignore power of three. They said we don't do that at all because that causes us to place people in wrong spots. So we don't even look at that. And that actually when they would go in and they'd teach a class, like let's say that someone hosted a class and 5 people enrolled at that class. Considering that all 5 of them are probably somehow know each other, they actually kind of stack them in a line with the most likely to share at the top. So the person who's the most likely to share the oils with others, they put them at the top. And then it's all about love. They just love. And anyway, it caused me to kind of consider this. Uh-huh. So first of all, their team, their culture, everything about it was love, right? And where people are going to receive the most love and the most support and things like that. So then, this kind of caused me to consider a little bit on Andy and Natalie Goddard, who also lead in a very similar way, and who are even though they're not the highest rank earner, they are the highest check earner. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I was thinking, okay, that's one thing that they're fantastic at is that they just, Natalie in particular, knows how to just turn on the love, Mm-hmm. And then Vanessa got up and she spoke at their convention and she brought out the oils, and she, in particular, she was revealing the aromatherapy line.
The emotional,
yeah, the emotional kit, yeah. Mm-hmm. So passion, peace, console, forgive. What are the other 2? I can't remember.
I could pull up a membership overview.
Cheer. Anyway, and she described each of those oils. She pulled them out and she described them with so much. I have never seen someone love the oils to that extent ever. I mean, I thought I liked the oils. I thought I've seen people that like the oils. No, we don't. Compared to what Vanessa just demonstrated, she would pull out frankincense, and she lovingly referred to frankincense as Frankie Boy the whole time. So she's like saying, okay, when I get out of the shower every morning, I take a little cup and I put about 5 milliliters of fractionated coconut oil in there, and I just add a few drops of cheer, right? And she'll take that, and she'd take the oil, and she'd go, and she'd breathe it in. And I mean, here she is in front of a couple thousand people, and she's just like, oh, like it was the great, like she's up there.
Like our callers can't see this.
Yeah, I know. But she's basically, making out with the oil, right? So she's just sitting there, just, oh, this is fantastic. And then she says, and then she goes, so I'll add a few drops of that to my fractionated coconut oil, and then I'll add a drop of Frankie Boy. And then she'll talk about how she mixes it together, and then she goes, and she showed everybody how she applied the oil. And she goes, I get aromatically dressed every morning. So she goes, I reach down and I rub it on my calves, and she's like, can I put it on? And she's describing how she applies the oil to every part of her body. And then she says, and she goes, and that's how I get aromatically dressed. And I'm sitting there thinking, I've been in doTERRA over 5 years, and I don't think I've ever aromatically dressed myself.
Not to that extent.
No. I mean, I take some oils and rub my hands, breathe it in, But like she had, and the thing was, is I was sitting there next to Adam Kopp, and I turned to him and I just said, it would be impossible for me to say no to her. Like, there's no way that I could disbelieve her sincere appreciation and authentic love for the product, And so, in fact, I walked away from her presentation. I said, if this is the only reason I came to Australia, if I just saw this, it'd be worth the whole trip. And it kind of made me think, what are the elements? Like, love is part of it, right? I mean, they've built a team around love. I went and talked to her husband, Paul, afterwards. After the talk, I just, her talk, and I just said, hey man, that was amazing. And he goes, well, to be sure, he goes, she doesn't know how the comp plan works. She doesn't know how any of that works, but I do, and he goes, so I have to understand all these things to make sure that we're actually hitting rank and that we're succeeding. So there was the strategic mind that was part of it, but he allowed that love, that tree of love concept to be the culture of a great team, a team that
obviously went very fast.
That went to Presidential Diamond in 2 years, right? And granted, they wouldn't have the overall volume of you or me, but I don't care. I mean, they have a Presidential Diamond paycheck because they built a team with amazing structure, with this culture of love. So the discussion we were having this morning that we kind of wanted to include with the Mastermind is, what are the key elements of creating a great team?
There's a couple of things I can think of that are illustrated in that story that are even beyond the actual couple itself. But one of the things that occurred to me is that if you hadn't gone to that event, you wouldn't have had that experience, and you wouldn't have been inspired, and we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now. And the topic of this program will probably move many people or inspire many people. And so I think that's an angle that we didn't talk about before. It
started with an event.
Right. It started with an event that you went to, and you were there. And because you were there, you were able to receive. And now when it comes to them, you and I have talked about this experience quite a bit. And we realized there just isn't any way of getting around having a core passion for our mission and the products or the essential oils in creating a really successful team. And by successful, I don't just mean going big fast. I mean a team that actually is cohesive, that stays the course,
That's built to last.
that is basically sold out for a lifetime it's bought in by heart into the mission and purpose that we're engaged in.
Right. But I think that you're touching on it, right? It's like, in order to build a great team, the culture has to be one where they have their love is a major part of their culture, but also there's a mission there that people bought into.
Right.
You know, when Natalie and Andy started blowing up, it was built around this concept of putting a healer in every home. And it was a cause that everybody could get behind and that they did get behind.
Right. And and I've gone to Natalie's classes before, and in the early days, because she's our upline, and but I've gone to I remember going to her classes, and her oils were out all the time. I mean, if you went to Natalie's house, you were getting oils. I mean, oils were coming out. I remember I took you up to her house, and we talked a little bit about how great doTERRA was, but she came across the room with a bottle of Balance or Serenity. But she had a drop on her finger, and it went right across, and I believe she swiped it right underneath your own.
The first time I ever met her.
Right.
I mean, she walked up to me. I don't even think I knew her name at that point, and she's wiping it underneath my nose.
She took her finger and wiped balance oil directly under your nose, and it was so funny. I remember it was her middle finger too, and because I remember it was so classic because you were stunned, and she just came across the room and she just gently swiped, and you sat down like you had just been shocked by the power of God. and you sat on the sofa. And I believe we were talking later, and you said you had a spiritual experience.
Well, what happened was the first thing was I went, what are you doing?
Right. I mean, it's just like people don't do that.
There's no social norm there, right?
right.
So she walks up and she swipes it underneath my nose. And initially I'm like, what are you doing? Like there was a little bit of almost like, get away from me, almost that type of thing. Then I breathed it in. And I just sat there going, whoa. Like it was like I had never experienced anything like it. Like I was just sitting there going, what in the world is that?
It was definitely
a
moment.
And in fact, she puts her hand on my shoulder. She goes, you're having a moment. something like that, right? It was kind of funny. So anyway, so let's open this up to the mastermind a bit. What are the core elements that make a great team? And I think a great tree of love, right? A team of love, right? So that's and I think so. Hit star 5 star if you have a comment on that, especially if you let's open that up to platinums and diamonds initially. I'll even say golds, but the reason I'm asking this is because I think that the culture starts with the leader, and certain teams take on the culture and the philosophy and the attitudes of the leader. I think our team's a good example of this, but I think every team's a good example of this. That you have to be to do that. So, what are some of the elements of a great team that causes that kind of growth, momentum, and success? Let's start with Virginia, since she raised your hand. Go ahead, Virginia.
Communication and understanding the love language of your leaders.
Communication and understanding the love language of your leaders. So, explain why those are important to you.
For me to connect with a person, if I understand the love language, then I understand the path I need to take. The easy thing for me is to be of service to others. But I've had to learn that not everyone feels comfortable with that.
Oh,
and then I have to work at it to figure out if they really are coming towards me and they really want the doTERRA, despite the fact that I'm a grandma and this or that or whatever, that they're interested. They want to learn. I said, okay, you want to learn more about your health? I'm happy to share ideas with you.
Yeah.
And you're framing it, and the 3 doors help me to not act like a dog and act more like a pussycat. So as I figured out what the needs were for each potential leader that are coming towards me. And as I learned that art of doing that better, and Brian can testify, he's watched it, then I'm doing much better with it. And not read into it more than what's really there, but just accept them where they are.
Hey, Virginia.
I've watched those. Go ahead.
Can you give us a description of the love languages, just in case people aren't familiar with that?
Oh, okay. Service, gift, time.
Physical touch.
And there's different kinds of gifts.
Yeah.
And
so physical touch is one of them.
Ones for our team.
Yeah. So it's So acts of service, and I think, Virginia, what you're saying is that your love language, the way that you like to receive love, and typically this is for everybody, the way that we give love is typically the way that we like to receive love. And in Virginia's case, her love language was acts of service, and so she was speaking to her team in the way that she wanted it
in her
love language. And the key is that we find the love languages of our leaders and serve them the way that they want to receive love. So acts of service, it's words of affirmation, right? Mm-hmm. That's one of them. Right. So when you're kind words, just good job, congratulations, you're great, all those things. Right. Acknowledgement, recognition. So it's like words of affirmation, physical touch, that's the hugs, the things like that. Mm-hmm. The gifts, quality time, and acts of service. So those are the 5 love languages. And so you were saying, Virginia, that you had to find out how your team wanted to receive that love, and then serve them in that way.
Exactly, and I gleaned by watching all of the leaders and what they were doing, and trying to figure out how to do it myself. And some of that was easy, and others was not. So I've just appreciated the privilege of listening constantly and being able to read things and to go on and just, if I can't be at a major event because of miles, I can go on the internet and see it. That has been a huge thing, and then I can share that with my people who were lots of miles, hours away from one another. And this really has made a difference for my team.
Thank you, Virginia. Alonto, what are your thoughts? Hey, can I see a sticky?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Just a sticky note.
So the question is, how do you develop the culture for
the
your
question
team?
is what are the elements that make up a great team culture? It's kind of like what we were just talking about. I saw that team in Australia grew so big, and it was because love was their team culture. And so we just thought, okay, what are the things that make a team great? How do you because all of us need to know this, even if you're just getting started, because if you're going to go big and your dream is to go diamond or bigger, right, you have to right now start deciding the type of team culture that you want. So what are the elements of a great team?
So first, we'll start with what is culture, right? What is team culture? And I love the definition of all the culture is the group of habits that people have developed within a team. And
group of
habits are created through repeated action that an individual develops. And habits are formed actions are formed through constant thought or a focused thought with emotion that leads to that action.
So culture. So I'm just summarizing here. So culture is caused by a group of habits, right? And those habits are created by consistent actions. And those actions are created as a result of your thoughts.
Focused thoughts combined with emotion.
focused thoughts combined with emotion. So can you give me some examples of how this works?
So the culture that we created with our team of being generous when it comes to your oils, so that everywhere you go, right, you basically give out oils to anyone that needs it. And this was a key thing to our success, because whenever, like, Desiree taught a class, right, and whenever we wanted to help someone, like, grow their team, it was basically like free reign on our every oil kit and more, right? Like, whatever you feel like you needed to help with your health, like, that was available for you, and there was no strings attached to it.
Great.
Like, you didn't need to sign up. You didn't need to reciprocate anything. It was just, if you needed it, you had access to it.
Yeah, so let's talk through that. So at some point there were focused thoughts with emotion, right? So where did the focused thoughts around being generous with your oils come from? Like where did that start? Did that start with you and Desiree?
Yeah, so that basically started with what the oils were able to do for us, like the availability of it and being able to utilize it whenever we had issues. And we felt like it blessed us so much that we wanted that same thing for others.
Right. So it was kind of like,
we repeated,
yeah. Keep going.
So as we repeated, like, those thoughts and emotions with regards to, like, now going into sharing with others, it became a habit. It became a habit to that whenever you came to our class, no matter how many samples you wanted of, like, all the different oils that maybe we went through over in the class, or anything else that they wanted samples of, no matter how expensive or no matter how rare that oil or expensive that oil may be, it was available to them in sample form.
Got it.
And that became a habit that we did every single time that we did the oils, and it duplicated with all of our team members doing the same thing, which created a culture of generosity in our team.
Right. I think so. I think this is kind of a cool. What he's describing is pretty cool because it also what he also said it duplicated, right? And so that's another part of this is that it has to be bigger than you. You know what I mean? Like it's
or not about you.
It can't be about you, right? Like it wasn't about Alonto and Desiree. You know, it was about generosity, right? That's a core belief. So let me now open this up to the mastermind in this way then. If that's how you create culture, then what are the things that make a great culture? And we could talk about what are the traits, what are the like generosity was a trait, right? That was is generosity something that you would say is important as a aspect of a team for it to grow and be successful? And I would say, well, Desiree and Alonto have proven that generosity is part of that.
Right.
But what are the other elements of this? Like love is the major trait of the Owen team, right? Paul and Vanessa. That's how they the tree of love and all of that. It's all because love was their great trait that they wanted to be part of their culture. So love, generosity. What are other things? Again, this is open up to the mastermind. Hit star 5 star to raise your hand. But what are the things that the traits or the culture that you want that are, not that just you want, but that actually work? You see what I mean? Like I think that you could say, hey, I want a culture of butterflies, right? And every class we're going to open up live butterflies, right?
Right.
And then that becomes the culture. But
Right.
does it get you the results? And I would argue that yes, it does. Like generosity and love do. I think those are so big. You have to make that part of your culture.
Right. Well, generosity, I think, is a reflection of your passion for the product. And if I were to think about what Vanessa did,
Yeah.
and
even what they did.
right, it was an utter, sincere, authentic passion for the gifts that we have to share with people. And it seems like no matter how hard we've tried to make it about other things, the only thing that has ever really created traction and stability and all the favorable things is the pursuit or passion for the mission and
Of the product.
the
mission of the
cause,
product.
the oils being in every home and people having freedom of choice with having the option of natural health and well-being, having access and empowerment to that.
In fact, the teams, I'd go so far as to say that the teams that try to subvert that try to make it about the opportunity, try to make it about, like, if they can lead with the opportunity, but if at some point, every team that does that, if they want to make it last, they have to go back and build a passion for the product.
Right, and we've watched that unfold in several different ways. We've because that creates a culture in itself, and that culture isn't always dedicated to the mission itself or the outcome, and it becomes kind of an internal mission instead of an external mission. And I find it's been my observation anyway that when you have a strong external mission and people are on that cause, like even something simple, like in my previous company, I used to ask people what their passion were, and one of the largest things that people felt passionate about was helping other people, doing something that helped other people, and so when that became the focus of that product line, it created an amazing culture. It created a culture of people that wanted to help other people, and they became passionate about the process and tools that we had to provide that. And so when you're looking at
and that was with something different you were involved in?
Yeah.
See, because I think that's actually part of it. Like, it's a passion for the product, which is important.
Right.
But it's also a passion for helping other people with that product.
Right.
Like Alonto was just describing how he and Desiree created a culture of generosity,
Right.
because they felt obligated to share what had done so much good for them.
Right. And think about it this way. Like this is like abundance mindset, and generosity, abundance, and things like that. But think about the things, if you're externally mission driven, meaning that you're part of the cause of getting oils in every home and helping other people, right? If that's your passion, think about the things that go away, like saturation, or my sister's already in, or on another team, or all these things emotionally go away because they're no longer relevant. They've contributed to the external mission.
Right. If the mission is helping others and you find people that have already been helped, that doesn't discourage you.
Right. But if you have it the other way, and it's an internal mission, meaning, hey, I'm here for me, and that's all there is to it, then everything discourages you.
Okay, so I'm going to say, so helping other people, and a subset of that trait is also selfless. Is that?
Yeah, I
how
think
would you
it. Well, it's hard to say. I mean, if you're bought into the mission of lifting and liberating people around the world, then every step of progress is good news. Like 1 in 4 households having essential oils in Provo, Utah, is great news.
Yeah.
But if I'm in it selfishly, then we tend to it becomes a source of frustration for us.
Right. So a selfless culture.
Right.
One where the focus is not on self, where even your just one sec, Court. So even your pursuit of your success is ultimately to bless the world.
Right.
To lift and liberate others. Yeah, Court, go ahead.
Hey, just adding on to what Rod's saying, something that's coming to mind for me is that, it's not just about the business for me. So you can have just your culture, in your business be just business, right? Like these are people I consider to be my business partners. I'm in business with them, right?
Yeah.
And I think, for me, what I've realized, sometimes I feel weird saying this on the phone because I think my team's listening and I hope they feel the same way I feel. But for me, I feel like, my culture is friendship, so for me, I'm not looking for another business partner. I'm looking to create another best friend in my life, right? And doTERRA has become my friend, my family. It's not just a business relationship with them. And when you look at it like that, people will stay with you because of that relationship, right?
Uh-huh.
If it was purely business, if there was a better business opportunity came up, then they would leave. So when you look, and ask that question, what, creates this long-lasting, business or whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? To me, it comes down to that relationship I have with them, which a lot of these things that have been talked about, love, generosity, things like that, are all a factor of that. But I think in order to realize that and accept these people as your friends, your family, your loved ones, and be, endeared to you for all of time while you're on this journey together, you can't look at them as an object or a business, right? Like, I'm going to make this decision because it's best for business right now, right? You can't just treat people and look at them as objects or business partners. But, I do things with people in my business, my friends, outside of doTERRA. We get together, we talk more than just doTERRA. I mean, they really become my greatest friends and an asset in my life.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point.
One of the things I do is it's kind of interesting, right in lines with what you're saying, Courtney, is that I find myself wanting my friends and family to be involved with me in doTERRA because I know that if they do, that they're going to be engaged in a heavy way. I mean, it opens the door for daily interaction, for purposeful events and things. The parts of my family that are engaged in the business are part of our universe.
Right.
And my friends that are engaged, we have it truly is the place for best friends and family. And
it's interesting that people say, well, I don't want to contact my friends and family. And that's a telltale sign, isn't it?
And I think about it just opposite. I want people close to me that I want close to me, which a lot of times are my friends and family. That's why they're my friends and family. Maybe family I can't have a choice over, but
right, that's true.
But I love that my family's engaged because it's created an intense bond with those family members that are part of our organization.
Absolutely.
And I've even approached some of my friends, and one or two of them were maybe offended a little bit and kind of avoid me, and I feel sad about that. Not sad that I approached them, but sad that they didn't want to be part of the core of my existence, which is my essential oil mission, and because I know that if they had chosen in, that they would be part of the biggest parts of my life right now, which I want them to be. So for me, family and friends, it's an expression of my love to invite them to be part of my business.
Right. Courtney, you had another thought on that?
No, it's said very well.
Well, I think...
Yeah, I just would agree. Sometimes I feel like we just treat people as objects or as business partners, and we don't think to, that this isn't short-lived. This isn't just a career that you're in until you retire. You know what I mean? This is your entire lifetime. And so I think it's important to just remember that. These people are going to be in your life forever. So what type of a relationship and culture do you want to have with them,
Yeah. I think that you've said this a couple of times, but it's just you see others as people and not objects, and hopefully as friends, like as some of the best friends you'll ever have. And I agree. Yeah.
Well, I was saying when you do that, you show up different. You know what I mean? You show up to serve them. You're not there just to get what you need out of it, but you're there to serve them, and so it completely changes how you even show up in that relationship.
I was reading a book, I think it was Beach Money, that mentioned that each area that you build, that you areas or leaders that you build in different teams, he kind of described them as vending machines or something like that. And I liked the imagery and that it helped me understand the business side of it, but I didn't like it because it did kind of take it into that object type of thing that Courtney's describing. Because I remember things that have helped me overcome some of the fears that I have when I was approaching people is I just asked myself questions like, who would I like to who would I like to raise my kids around? Because the people that I'm going into business with, these are people that are going to be with me for years, for the next 30 years. So who do I want to who do I want to be involved in my family? And I think that's that kind of helped me realize, wait, I'm not coming to you just because of the oils or just because of the business. It's because I want to create a relationship that's going to be a valued relationship for years to come.
Right.
Thanks, Court. Mary, Sisti, what are your thoughts on this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, hi. So I was just kind of listening in on everybody and just kind of looking over what I do with my team and how I show love to develop a team culture. And I feel like how I do this and how I show them love is through example. Like leading with the Edge Success team and showing them what that means. So Edge, what we're all about is educating and demonstrating and guiding and empowering. So I do these steps daily in my business, and I try my best to lead by example for that. So if I get them to the empowerment stage, that's the best love you can give to your team, to someone, to your builders. So I think what confuses a lot of people in the way they build, and what I kind of done, like in the beginning, I showed them love by doing everything for them. So, like doing the Edge Success, but doing it for them. So that's kind of the opposite of what we want to try to promote. So the opposite is controlling and doing all those steps for them, and that's where people can get confused. So doing these steps for them will do the opposite of love. It will take the power away from your team, and it will not allow them to grow, which will ultimately lead to dependence on you, the leader, which ultimately the leader will become overwhelmed because you're not duplicating. And then, it would be enabling them versus empowering. So just be careful of how you love your team. What does that mean to you? And what, how you're duplicating yourself. And I think lastly, being a clear and concise leader, because people, they may not know what their goals are, or they don't write their goals down, and so they're unsure of how they want to lead their team. So just being clear and concise about your mission and helping to mentor your leaders by knowing what their why is all about and what they want to accomplish. So again, it's like not putting the spotlight on you, it's really getting the listening ears out and listening to what they want to accomplish with doTERRA and what that looks for them, what that's like. So, and then just being dedicated, oh my gosh, like that's the ultimate thing. I think when I became aware of this, I made sure I dedicated my time that I had away from my job when I had the job at first, try to, get my week schedule out and definitely be there, be present to your team and making sure that their goals are being met on a weekly basis. Like the 631 is a perfect example of what you can do with this. Starting from that, just talking to your team leaders. I mean, things change all the time. So being aware and know what's going on down the line and having that open communication forum and just following through. I mean, we follow through with our samples, and that leads to classes and success of sign-ups. So kind of doing the same thing with your teammates, just following through with them. That's important.
Yeah. So you said quite a bit of things. First of all, the concept of EDGE, the acronym of explain, demonstrate, guide, and empower. I love how you changed the wording on explain to educate. I think that brings a cool explain, demonstrate, as opposed to educate, demonstrate, guide, and empower. But the other thing is I loved how you mentioned that an element of a great team is the idea of empowering your team instead of enabling them. I think that's great because there are a lot of people that say, well, I'm going to love my team so much that I'm coddling them. I'm not allowing them to grow.
Right.
Right.
Also, when you mentioned that it's why focused, like that it's important for you to know your mission, your purpose, your why, but that can't be the culture of the entire team. Instead, the culture is help people discover their why. And I think that that's kind of something that we're noticing it too, is that the biggest leaders make the cause about everyone as opposed to one person's cause. Like, let's just take doTERRA and Young Living, for example. doTERRA has made the oils. How many times have you heard Emily Wright say that the oils have a mission? And it's about the mission of the oils, right? That's what it's about. But on the other hand, like Young Living, it's more about Gary Young. You know what I mean? Like, we go there and it's like my sister, who was in Young Living before she got into doTERRA, went to both conventions, and that was kind of the major difference, was that, doTERRA was more about the oils and how they could help us accomplish our why, as opposed to the oils and how they could help Gary accomplish what he wanted to do. You know what I mean? And so it's just kind of interesting. Like, you wonder, both companies have fantastic oils, but why in the world is doTERRA why is it doing what it's doing? It's just blowing up all the records. And then also the dedication, the fact that, so I took that from what Mary taught us here, is that it's the EDGE method itself could be a culture of empowerment versus enabling, be why focused, help other people discover their why. I think that's a fantastic culture to have, and then be dedicated. Right. There was a 619 area code down below that had their hand raised. Oh, it looks like they lowered their hand. Okay, is there anybody else?
Star 5 star.
Okay, so I think we've talked a lot about some of the elements of having a great culture that actually move the dial. I think that's important to ask. What does cause? Let's talk about how the opportunity fits into this. You know what I mean? Because I think that the opportunity, our culture, at least our stated mission, is to lift and liberate others and lift and liberate the world. And while physical healing is a major element to this and a necessary part of it, as we've just talked about, we have to have passion for the product. But what about a passion for helping people achieve their financial dreams? Is that an element? Is that a hurtful culture, or is that culture just as powerful as the product?
I think doTERRA did a fantastic job of positioning the role of the opportunity by saying that one of their goals now, is to be the company that has gotten the most people debt free. And so I look at that, and I think financial health is as important as physical health.
You're right.
And so I think what they're promoting is they're saying, hey, because we have a business opportunity, we actually have another solution in our toolbox. And finances is for me, finances was a big healing part of the product. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking how utterly and completely my family has been served and benefited because we now have feelings of easy financing.
That's a compliant statement for money. I didn't know we had to be compliant with money when we talked about it.
Not on money.
But we talked about this yesterday, though. We probably spent a good 30 minutes talking about this very thing, where we were just kind of discussing the fact that, when it comes to the financial side of things, like we've joked a few times. We're like, people have said that money doesn't buy happiness, and I don't know.
I've been pretty happy.
Yeah.
That's here's the other thing too, is to think about if somebody is engaged in sharing the oils with other people so that they can get a check. I mean, it may, that might not be the sole reason why they're doing it, but if they share the oils so they can get a check, it doesn't matter what size the check is, because any bit that comes in is reducing the cost of having the oils in the home. So even if
But I wouldn't say that that's necessary. I mean, while I think that, would you say that it's an effective culture to have people out there sharing the oils with the intent of getting a check, or do you think, like I found, that I get more. I have more success when the culture around that is I'm sharing the oils to reach out and help others find healing, things like that.
I haven't seen a lot of a lot of stickiness as far as retention and things like that based around if people are solely opportunity driven. I think
But I could say the same thing about the product.
Right.
If people are not focused at all on the opportunity, then their reach only goes so far.
Right. I think what I was driving at is that because there is an opportunity, getting any check is a huge benefit.
Right.
Meaning some people might want just an occasional check, and that's a great reason for the opportunity to exist. Because if you want to be on Lifelong Vitality, for example, and you have a couple of 3 people in your home that you want on Lifelong Vitality, and you're able to share that with a few people, and you get any check at all, then that's gonna assist with your household budget. And at the same time, if you keep going or keep putting pressure on that, you have the option of creating, a really serious business.
In fact, look, I mean, as I'm thinking about this, I mean, we just mentioned a whole bunch of elements of a powerful culture. Mm-hmm. I know people who made the opportunity a major part of their culture, and they have enormous teams.
Uh-huh.
You look at Elise and Patrick Shededy.
Right, but there was a time where they had to switch.
Well, they had to. It's more like they had to incorporate the passion for the product.
They had
as well.
to combine, because without the passion of the product, there wasn't enough.
So really, there's 2 elements to this whole thing. There's the passion for the product. Mm-hmm. And the cause. We'll call that the cause side of DoTerra. Mm-hmm. Putting a healer in every home, oils in every home, things like that, right? Uh-huh. Then you have the dream side of it, and the dream is, hey, let's become financially free. Let's help other people become financially free. Let's, it's the removing of the financial barriers. Right. And on their own, those 2 are powerful. But when you combine the 2, when you have a culture that incorporates both, that we have a passion for the product, and that passion for the product motivates a lot of our selflessness, whether that's generosity or, or serving or things like that. But then there's also the other side of this and we're passionate about the dream side of this, about helping people fulfill their divine mission and purpose by giving them the financial means to do so.
Right.
Both of those are extraordinarily powerful, and I don't think that you can have a successful team if you focus on one or the other. It has to be both.
Right.
How do you do that? Let's open that up to the mastermind. How do you have a team that successfully marries the dream, the financial dream, and the cause of the oils in your business? How do you do that? Star 5 star to raise your hand.
We stunned people.
Hey, Seth.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's amazing that you bring this question up, because as we're talking about like the love for the oil and the oil to be at the forefront, and then everything else kind of follows, it just reminds me of really what psychology has really understood about the motivation factors when it comes to human beings, right? And if you understand the whole idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know that?
Yes, I do. I was just thinking that as you were mentioning that.
So it's actually a progression, right?
Right.
To get to a certain point, right? We start with the oils. We start with providing like the necessities of life. So like food, shelter, those types of things that help to prolong or to improve the way of life with people. And as we go through and like move up that pyramid, we take care of security and relationships. And then at the very top of it is self-actualization. And really that's the highest kind of way of being when it comes to what we're trying to attain in our day-to-day life in this world. And really, if you look at big-time leaders, they work through that process of going through okay, let's take care of the foundations first. Let's take care of the financial security. But after financial security and after developing those connections and building the relationship, it becomes, okay, why am I on this earth for? Like, what is my mission? What is my divine mission and purpose? And it's a progression that people go through. And if you understand that, if you are truly committed to that process of going through like the different levels of kind of human needs, right? You eventually get to that point where you do become self-actualized. You do discover what this life is all about for you, and you go out and you lead in a big way. You now have that everything is taken care of, right? Like your food, your shelter, your security, everything is done. Now you ask that question, what's next?
Yes, I agree with you, and I think that this is kind of touching on, because if you were to take this model, this hierarchy of needs, and you were to say, okay, so the basic needs, I'd say a fundamental need along with food and shelter is health, right? There's nothing else that matters other than, I mean, as they say, if you're healthy, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And so I think that that's kind of where we recognize the importance that we can have a passion for the oils based upon it being a fundamental need for people to have natural health and wellness, right? And then that moves up. Like we start taking care of others, like security. Well, there's security in health, but there's security also that's found in finances as well. And then when you start to become financially free, then you're free enough to build these relationships that Courtney talked about earlier, and then the self-actualization. That's why. Why is it that every single meeting that we attend, everybody talks about your why? Well, it's because you have to have something that motivates you beyond just your basic needs and security needs.
Right. Yeah, it's really easy to get stopped in the process if you don't have a driving factor.
It's kind of interesting to think that your team culture has to incorporate both of those things. Mm-hmm. It has to meet the needs while helping people reach for higher.
Well, I know even if you take the Edge team mission, promoting health and well-being, developing great and powerful leaders, and empowering individuals and families with essential oils, lifting and liberating the world, that's an incorporated mission. Because the product of the mission is driven by the oils, but at the same time, the actualization of the whole mission is driven by the finances. Meaning that ultimately, what we're envisioning is a team of great and powerful leaders with great resources, so that we can achieve the highest level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is essentially projecting purpose into the world. And forwarding causes and providing leadership into the world, and so, but it's interesting because the product, the essential oils are the foundation of that, but the opportunity is what makes it all possible.
Right. Okay, let's see here. We have just 5 more minutes on the call before we end it. Does anybody have any last thoughts related to the topic we've been discussing? If you do, hit *5 to raise your hand. I'm trying to scroll through that. Okay, if not, let's go ahead and sum up the call here. I think that we talked about a lot of things. I appreciate everybody who has contributed to this call, but I think that we've covered a lot of good things. First of all, that the elements of a team culture that will create the kind of success that you want starts with a passion and love for the product, and a commitment to the cause of the oils, whether that's putting an oil in every home, a healer in every home, or whatever that mission looks like to you. It's got to be about helping others, a selfless culture based in generosity and a willingness to serve others first. That when you're contacting people, the intent is to bless others in their lives. That friendships, you need to see others as people and not as objects, but as a relationship that you're going to develop over years. And that these are the same people that you're going to be raising your kids around for the next 30 years. So who do you want that to be? The EDGE method: educate, demonstrate, guide, and empower. That our job is not to enable others, but to empower them and help them achieve what they want. This kind of brings to mind when I was pushing for Presidential Diamond really hard last year, and I ended up calling one of my leaders, Holly, and I called her up and I said, "Hey, would you care if I pushed you to platinum?" And she said, "Yeah, I would mind." And she goes, "Don't interview me because I didn't earn it." And and she just was describing that, and the fact is that she didn't want to be enabled. She wanted to be empowered. She wanted to have that victory. And it would kind of cause me to step back and go, what, maybe my goals aren't as important as the relationship, the friendship, and the long-term development of that leader.
Right.
And and I kind of thought to myself, what if you had taken away platinum from me? What if platinum wasn't my accomplishment, but it was yours? What would that have done to me? Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about that, and I said, no, I need to make sure that our culture is one of empowerment, that we're helping people become leaders as opposed to, kind of false ranks.
Right. Those bigger ranks, of course, are, really, if you want a really solid business, is about helping your leaders achieve their goals.
Right. Because she's very close to platinum, but when she hits it,
it'll be her victory.
It'll be her victory, and if she can hit that, well, guess what? She can hit diamond, and she can go above that too.
Right.
So the fact that you got a why focused, the hierarchy of needs, and that we're helping people with their self-actualization. That it can't be about you. Like the culture is about helping others achieve their divine mission and purpose with the financial success that'll come. And then we also discuss the fact that we really may need to make sure that it's not just oil and cause focused, and it's not just the financial dream focused, but a good marriage of those two. Okay, thanks everybody. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you next week on next week's Mastermind.